My cousin Linda always said her house had a spirit of its own, not haunted exactly, more like a warm, slightly cluttered soul that hummed with life. It was the kind of place where furniture didn't match but memories did, and I loved it for that. At 50, I was coming off a long chapter of life that had slowly closed on its own, a divorce that had been calm in public and quietly brutal in private. Grown children who had flown the nest, leaving behind a silence I hadn't learned to live with yet. So when Linda asked if I'd stay the weekend and look after the house while she and Tom slipped away for an anniversary trip, I said yes before she could finish the sentence. Her house sat on a tree-lined street that felt like a page from a forgotten novel, fragrant with jasmine, pulsing with the rhythm of birds and breeze. Inside, it was like stepping into a photo album, framed smiles of her sons at every stage of growing up, books with cracked spines on every surface, a kitchen that smelled like love and lasagna. That first evening, I let the solitude wrap around me. I wandered through the garden, wild and unruly in the best kind of way, and then settled on the porch swing with a book I'd been promising to read for years. The sun sank behind the trees, casting everything in gold. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Linda had left a homemade lasagna in the fridge, and I ate it at the counter barefoot and content. Later, curled under an Afghan, I flipped through old photo albums. I felt the ache of nostalgia, but it was softened by the comfort of the house and the safety of memory. Eventually, I made my way to the guest room, a cozy nook with a lavender-scented quilt and a window that framed the moonlit garden. I fell asleep quickly for once, not carrying the weight of an empty house. It must have been past midnight when something stirred me, a quiet thud downstairs, a door clicking shut. My first thought was that Linda and Tom had returned unexpectedly, but then came the slow, deliberate footsteps up the stairs, not rushed, not familiar. I sat up, heart knocking against my ribs. The doorknob turned, I braced myself. A figure stepped into the room, tall and backlit by the hallway glow. At first, I didn't recognize him, but then I saw the curls, the jawline, the boyish uncertainty. Leo, Linda's youngest. He looked stunned to see me, then embarrassed. "Aunt Sarah," he whispered. His voice had dropped a few octaves since I'd last heard it. "What are you doing here? You scared me half to death," I replied, pulling the quilt tighter. I tried to laugh, but my pulse hadn't slowed yet. He apologized, his voice soft and sincere. "Mom and Dad didn't say anyone was here. I came home for the weekend. I've got an early class Tuesday." I offered to take the couch. He insisted it was his usual spot when home. We went back and forth in the way only polite people do in awkward moments until I said impulsively, "It's big enough for two, as long as you don't snore." He gave me that lopsided grin I remembered from when he was little, the same one that used to win cookies and extra stories at bedtime. "Deal," he said. That night, we lay there side by side in the quiet. Neither of us moved much, but the space between us felt charged, not with anything inappropriate, but with the intensity of being seen, really seen after a long time of being invisible. After a while, he asked, "How have you really been?" The way he said it, gently, sincerely, made my throat tighten. I told him about the quiet, the hollowness, the way the house felt too big now, and he listened, really listened. He spoke too, about pressure and uncertainty and how adulthood felt heavier than he expected. Somewhere in that shared midnight space, we stopped being just family. We were two people at turning points, offering quiet company in the dark. His hand found mine. It was innocent, warm, firm, steady, and it undid me in the gentlest way. That night didn't end with declarations or anything cinematic, but it was deeply human. Two people finding connection where neither expected it. When I woke, he was gone from the bed, but a note waited beside a fresh cup of coffee. "Went for a run. Coffee's on. Last night was really nice, Leo." It was real, all of it. He returned flushed from his run and offered me a day I couldn't refuse. A drive to a seaside town, just the two of us chasing milkshakes and small adventures. I almost said no, but something inside me, the part that hadn't been asleep, just waiting, said yes. The day was laughter and wind in our hair and stories that spilled like secrets. He showed me the world through his camera lens, and I saw myself not the woman who had been left behind by time, but someone still full of life. When we got home that evening, the sun bleeding into the sky like watercolor, we stood on the porch and said, "Thank you." Not just for the day but for something deeper we'd both been adrift from, and somehow in the stillness of an unexpected night, we'd found a little of what we'd been missing. It was never about romance. It was about remembering we were alive, and sometimes that's